And today, we have an amazing program outlined for you. So, welcome to the 2025 Customer Centricity World Series, starting with the conference here today. We appreciate those that have set this up, powered by Arquette Global and the Dubai Chambers, the patronage we are very, very much appreciative for. We're also thankful to our sponsors, Question Pro, Imperium, and the CX Academy. Thank you for your loyalty and your sponsorship to make this happen. And of course, all of our partners that are part of this program every year. We appreciate that very much. My name's Marlon Hardy. I'm from the United States. I work for one of the largest worldwide implementers of services globally. And it's a privilege to be here with you for the 6th year in a row. Thank you for having me, and look forward to a wonderful day to get together today. Let me get the program off to a great start by inviting my dear friend Alec Dalton, Executive Director of Accelerating Leaders, to the stage, who's got an amazing program and talk that he's going to walk you through. So put your hands together for Alec Dalton, please.
Thank you, Marlon, for that introduction, and good morning, everybody. I'm so excited to be joining you from New York City and from the United States, but I'm especially excited to be here, thank you, on the world stage with representation from virtually every continent. Do we have anybody here from Europe, and Asia, and Africa, North America, South America? There we go. Oceania? Excellent. All right, now that leaves Antarctica. Anybody? We'll take it. Well, we're going to have a lot of fun today. One of the most exciting things about this program is the opportunity to cross-pollinate our understanding of customer experience from around the world. And I'm particularly excited to share my perspective as an operator and today as a consultant and also as a professor of customer experience management. So again, my name is Alec Dalton. I'm a professor at Boston University and Florida International University in the United States, the executive director of a firm called Accelerating Leaders, and that's what we do. We help organizations, both brand name and boutique, in hospitality, retail, healthcare, and beyond, accelerate their teams, accelerate their leadership capabilities, and operate at a level that delivers 5-star service experiences. Now, in order to get to where I am today, I also wear a different hat along the way. In a past life, I was also a magician, and I made a little bit of magic at the Walt Disney Company. I'm not the kind of magician that's going to pull a rabbit out of the hat. If I somehow pull that off right now, I'll be just as impressed as you are. But I am going to share with you a little bit of the secret sauce of how the magic gets made at Disney. After working with Disney, though, and making that magic, I transitioned and joined another organization known for legendary service experiences, and that's the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company. With over 150 hotels, residences, now yachts across the world, this brand is renowned for its legendary service experiences. And here, too, I'm really excited to share with you a peek behind this curtain. Are you ready? Let's dive in. So, at the end of the day, this is going to be a story about trash. It's kind of funny to begin a customer experience presentation talking about trash, but to a certain extent, I think this represents some of the heartbeat of what we can do as leaders of customer experience management. The reason I like talking about this is because if we go back to the very, very early days of the Disney organization, I'm talking not only the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, but the precursor to Disneyland. You see, Walt Disney had an idea, not just to create amazing entertainment experiences for families through his movies, but to bring those stories to life, to generate immersive experiences, the likes of which had never been seen before. You see, before Disneyland opened in 1955, there were certainly amusement parks around the world, but consequently, those were typically run down, dirty, dangerous. There was a 50-50 chance that you were going to lose an arm or a leg. You might lose your kid. There might be a stabbing. There might be theft. Like, not the kind of place that we think of now when we think of Disneyland. And it's precisely because Walt Disney saw this model and realized it's not working. And he set out to create something new. He created Disneyland. He said, we've got the intellectual property. We're going to make this place family-friendly, fun, safe, and clean. And so 1955, Disney opens. He spends years transitioning from a film studio into a omni-channel entertainment complex, and he opens his park to great fanfare. And it goes smoothly for about 4 hours, and then things start to collapse. And one of the things that started to collapse in their operating system was that cleanliness component. Despite his mission and mandate to his team that we're going to be the cleanest amusement park anywhere in the world, the trash already started to pile up on day one. And so what do you think Walt Disney might have done on day 2, 3, 4, 5? Well, his first thought was, we just need more custodial staff. So he increased his headcount, practically doubled the number of janitors and warewashers and maintenance workers and landscapers all throughout the park. And you know what? Made hardly a dent. His labor costs doubled, the operational impact negligible. So what did he do? He sat down. On a bench on Main Street, he sat down for several days at a time and studied and observed what was happening in this operation that he and his team had conceived. He simply watched. It's not necessarily rocket science, but there was a science behind what he was doing. He wanted to understand the human behavior, both from an employee standpoint and from a guest experience standpoint. And here's what he realized. He realized how to use a clicker. He realized that on average, if a guest had a piece of waste, like a hot dog wrapper or a drink cup, they would hold on to it for 25 paces. 23, 24, 25. And if right here there was a trash receptacle, a waste bin, they'd throw it away. Or if there was one anywhere along the way, they would deposit it, like a good Samaritan. If there was no trash receptacle, do you know where they put the trash? Right on the ground. The secret he found was not in the number of custodial team members that he had, but in the placement of trash cans, in the placement of convenient and accessible disposal bins where guests could accomplish what success meant to them in the moment, which was getting rid of something extra in their hands that they were done with and considered dirty. And so, throughout his park, he placed at those 25-pace increments for the average human step, trash cans, waste receptacles. But again, this vision for Disney, for Disneyland, was not just to have trash cans everywhere. It wasn't trash can land, right? The intent, rather, was to theme these trash cans so that they blended in with the environment. So while you're enjoying the park, taking pictures with your friends and family, it's not like every background scene also includes the waste bin. And so if we're in Frontierland, we'd find our wooden trash cans. If we head to Galaxy's Edge, a Star Wars-themed experience, the trash cans seem like droids. He went not only from addressing the behavioral function, figuring out how people operate in an organic and natural way, solving for that through design, through the placement of trash cans, but then considering the next level. How do you go from 4 to 5 stars? You think about the design components and try and make things elevated and elegant, seamless and blended. And that's what he accomplished there. Let me ask you this. Where's the trash can in this scene? That mailbox, does that look like a pretty good contender? Who thinks it's the mailbox? Probably guess it's not the mailbox at this point. Here's another crazy trick that Disney Imagineering has concocted over the years. The trash cans are right there. In fact, this is a functioning post office box. You could bring a piece of mail and have it stamped from Disneyland. But the reason that you may not have immediately seen those green trash cans, the reason that you may not have even seen necessarily these green lampposts, is because going that extra mile, tapping into behavioral psychology, Disney also partnered with Kodak, the photonics and picture company. Because again, they remembered that when guests are coming to the park, one of the best souvenirs they're going to want to take away are photos. And again, the last thing that they want is for their photos to be cluttered with trash cans and sound systems and lighting. And so with Kodak, they patented particular shades of green called go-away green, borderline camouflage. Throughout the park, there are other nods and touches that relate back to this behavioral engineering. But ultimately, what Walt Disney did was he figured out how to approach management of service experiences from a customer-centric point of view using scientific methods. One of the things I'm mindful of is that not only do we have representation from around the world in this group, but we also have representation from the C-suite to the front lines of service. We've got a great mix of roles and responsibilities in this room. And so my goal through the rest of this presentation is to give each of you those takeaways that we can adapt and implement, again, whether we're on the front lines or with a C in our title. And one of those is that practice of doing what we would now call a Gemba walk, or management by walking around. In the case of Walt Disney, he didn't just sit in his office and figure out and wonder, how do we clean up this trash? He got out there and observed. He watched. In fact, he had another practice that we would now describe in the quality management world as an Ono circle, named after Taichi Ono, a manufacturing executive from Japan who was particularly renowned for doing the same thing and reducing waste and inefficiencies in auto manufacturing production. The goal with a Gemba walk or an Ono circle is either to move around or to stand in place, but to observe, to digest, to listen, and to learn, so that we can find those natural and novel nuances in human behavior, defects in our operations, opportunities to become more lean, more efficient, more effective, more satisfying, safer, and to tap into those opportunities through our innovation. Another key thing that he did, though, that to this day sets a scene throughout the Disney organization, is that he modeled the behavior that he expected of each of his team members. He didn't say, I'm Disney, my name is on the park, I'm not going to touch a piece of trash. In fact, to this day, if you were to go into any Disney property, theme park or office, studio or otherwise, you would find leaders picking up the trash themselves, setting that tone and the example that everybody across the operation is responsible for cleanliness, whether we're in a custodial cast member's attire or in another position of responsibility. In fact, this culture of cleanliness, this culture of quality, has permeated beyond the norms of any traditional organization. You have people that run marathons at Disney parks dressed like these trash cans. You have opportunities to celebrate that kind of a culture. And pivoting from Disney to another one of my former employers, Marriott International, this practice was equally celebrated, where the leader of the organization set a tone for quality. And I know this firsthand because when I was with Marriott, not only was I working on property at 2 Ritz-Carlton hotels managing the operations, but I also worked for 6 years in global quality, managing guest satisfaction for about 7,500 hotels in 132 countries across 33 brands. And this was my boss, Bill Marriott, the man whose name is also behind the brand. And Mr. Marriott set a similar tone of expectation across our operations. In fact, as he toured around hotels, even at the age of 94, he was particularly known for always having 2 suit jackets with him on every single tour. Do you want to know why? Well, one of the things he would do, again, every single hotel he toured, and sometimes he'd tour 5, 10, 12 hotels a day, as he'd go through the corridors, especially in the back office, the heart of house spaces where the employees work behind the scenes, he would rub his arm across the wall. More often than not, that first suit would get a bit of paint on it. And he'd always comment about it. Now, he was well enough off that he could afford a couple of pairs of suits that were damaged by paint over the years. But the idea was he needed to set a tone that, while he appreciated hotels polishing off the place every time he came and visited, he would hope that they didn't wait until he was knocking on the door before sprucing up the place. I'm going to give you a personal example of this leadership in action, taking responsibility, the spirit that I gained from both Walt Disney and Bill Marriott, a sense of empowerment and initiative that both organizations set in place for all of their employees. So to set the scene, I'm at the Ritz-Carlton outside of Washington, D.C. I'm the duty manager, so effectively everybody else has gone home for the night. I'm running the house. At that particular time, there were front desk agents who were on break, so I was even managing the phone lines. And I get a call at about, say, 11 p.m., midnight, from a guest who had just checked out earlier that day. In fact, I had checked her out. I was surprised to hear her voice on the phone. Mrs. Smith, it's so good to hear your voice again, although I just heard you a couple of hours ago. Is everything all right? I hope you've had smooth travels to your next destination. And Mrs. Smith explained she had indeed had smooth travels, except she left her luggage. She had some dry cleaning that she had left hanging in the closet. Oh my gosh, Mrs. Smith, I'm terribly sorry to hear about this. How soon do you need your clothes? And she said, well, that's the tricky part. I need them for a board meeting tomorrow morning. Again, it's about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock p.m. She needs them for a meeting tomorrow morning, so presumably by like 6 or so a.m. she's going to need these clothes. Mrs. Smith, where are you right now? She's in Baltimore, Maryland, on the north side, about 3-hour drive from the particular location that I was at in the D.C. suburbs. All right, Mrs. Smith, would you prefer that I drop these clothes off at 3 a.m., or would you like me to wait until you wake up at 6 a.m. to receive your clothes? She goes, what? And I said, well, would you prefer that I deliver them as soon as possible, or would you like me to deliver them at 6 a.m.? I don't want to disturb your sleep, especially if you're at a board meeting. And she goes, you're going to bring them? Well, of course. You need these clothes for a board meeting. I can't leave you stranded. She's like, but I'm the one who left them. It doesn't matter. You need them. You're our guest. Even after you've left our domain at the Ritz-Carlton, we're going to make sure you're taken care of. You're our guest for life, more or less, was the message we were trying to send. So first, let me confirm that I've got your luggage. I call housekeeping. They haven't seen it yet. It turns out they hadn't cleaned that room yet. We had some occupancy and availability that day. I run upstairs. Indeed, the clothes are hanging in her closet. I grab them, call her back, confirm that I have them, and let her know I'm on my way there right now. I know you want your clothes at 6 a.m. I'm going to get to the hotel early. I'm going to get a couple of hours of sleep myself, and I will see you bright and early. Let me know which room you'd like me to bring your clothes to. And so just like that, following the Ritz-Carlton way, at about 12:49, I hopped in that car. I got her bags. I always kept a spare bag of my own, had some Dr. Pepper to stay fueled up, and I hit the road. I get to the hotel, a couple of hours away, hit the snooze button, and she was not in a position for us to take a selfie at 6 in the morning, but rest assured, she got her clothes. She was enormously grateful for that experience. And to a certain extent, other than the fact that I now talk about it in conferences, I don't think all that much of it, because that was the expectation that we had at the Ritz-Carlton, that if a guest had a problem, which we referred to as an opportunity, it was indeed our opportunity to help them succeed, to give them a wow moment, to surprise and delight, to make them successful, whether they were in our hotel, coming to our hotel, going from our hotel, or anywhere in between. As a manager, this was especially my expectation because I had to set the expectation for others. We have a practice within the Ritz-Carlton called lateral service, where as needs arise, anybody can jump into any other role at any given point in time in order to help a team deliver on a service commitment like this. And the effect multiplies. Not only do we empower our team members to take care of our guests, but those guests are satisfied. Mrs. Smith, I can guarantee you she stays at that Ritz-Carlton hotel for at least 5 nights a month. She's done that for 6 years now. The value of paying about $1,000 a night each time, you can do the math. That certainly paid for my gas and a couple of hours of sleep in another hotel in another state. But it was worth it for the lifetime value of the customer. And she was happy. And frankly, I was happy too. One of the best parts about the work that we do in customer experience management is that every experience that we create for a guest, we create with a guest. We create with a customer. And we have the power to empower our employees to seize those moments and create meaningful, memorable, purpose-filled experiences that keep us going, that keep us energized, entertained, and hopefully that also allow a little tolerance for sleep every now and then. Now that story aside, I want to go back to talking about trash. You see, part of all of this is also about making sure that we're keeping fun in the workplace. I don't know if fun is the first word that many people associate with a brand like the Ritz-Carlton, known for its pinstripes and three-piece suits and white glove service and top hats. Fun is probably a word you would associate more so with Disney. But in any case, we want to make sure, as the quality theorist W. Edwards Deming would describe, that we're making people want to come to work so that they can in turn help our customers want to come and spend their money, their time, their energy, and their effort with us. And Disney does the same thing. I already showed you that picture earlier of people running a marathon dressed like Disney trash cans. Here's an example of a park. This is in Tokyo Disneyland, where this trash can is actually a robot that roves around. And as you throw trash into it, it talks back to you. And it dances with you. And it follows you around to your next ride. You can buy figurines in the gift shops, of course. Here's another example of those marathoners. A marathon in a trash can. That's next level cult. There was even an engagement in front of one of these trash cans. That's the power of this extreme level of behavioral engineering. Not only did Disney solve for that initial challenge, how do we keep our parks clean? But in thinking both from a scientific and an artistic standpoint, they also figured out, how do we add some of that magic? How do we sprinkle some pixie dust over a typically undesirable part of our experience, trash cans, and make it something magical, memorable, distinctive, and engaging? And that's an opportunity that all of us have. Even the custodial cast members whose prime job it is to keep the parks clean also have a primary responsibility of entertaining guests along the way. Many of them are known for basically filling up their waste bins with water, turning their brushes into paintbrushes, and drawing art throughout the parks, whether you've got a character from the Haunted Mansion or a Mickey Mouse. And this goes to the heart of, I think, everything that we do. Our job is to instill pride. And I define pride as personal responsibility in delivering excellence. Everything I've talked about, that Ritz-Carlton example, delivering the guest her luggage, the Disney examples, taking care of clean, tidy, and fun parks, comes from the fact that these organizations, just as yours can, inspire pride in everybody in every part of the organization. And it's through that pride that the magic happens. Here's another story, this time from Disney. If you've ever been to a Disney park, you may be familiar with the characters that rove around, and you can go and visit with them, and they'll sign autographs and take pictures. And while I was working at Disney, in one of my earliest roles, I was a concierge in Orlando, Florida, at Walt Disney World. My desk was about, 500 meters away from the Magic Kingdom, more or less, the closest resort to the park, one monorail hop away. And at my desk, I kept an autograph book. You see, at that particular hotel, we averaged 9 to 12 weddings on a given Saturday. We had a character dining breakfast, lunch, and dinner buffet right next to the desk where you could meet Cinderella or Alice in Wonderland or Aladdin. We had tea with Princess Aurora on the other side of the hotel, so you can imagine we've got lots of brides in their princess dresses, their wedding gowns. We certainly had lots of kids dressed as little pirates or little princes or little princesses. And so I flipped the script. For $10, I bought one of these autograph books that guests used to have characters sign them. But instead of asking Mickey Mouse to sign mine, as guests would come toward my desk, whether they were going to the restaurant or going to their wedding, I would come to them. If they were a kid, I'd get down on one knee. If they were a princess, I would bow. And I would ask them to sign my autograph book. And you can imagine the reaction on their faces when I ask a little Princess Jasmine for her autograph, right? Or I ask a bride, blushing, for her signature to remember the occasion. That's a sense of self-actualization that you can't imagine until you see it in action. A really powerful gesture that costs $10 in a little bit of time. Not only that, I've now been able to share this story with you and multiply the impact. In fact, I would consider my autograph book to be one of my most prized possessions, because over the course of hundreds of experiences, I now have those moments and memories captured in a physical form. That, again, is an easy but straightforward and practical example of what I'm talking about when I refer to this personal responsibility in delivering excellence. That's the key, that's the magic to getting from 4 to 5 stars, to going from good to great experiences. At the end of the day, regardless again of our role, we in customer experience management are here to answer one question. What stories do we want our customers to tell? If we think about it, part of our job is to get customers in the door from the onset, to attract and entice them away from our competitors, onto our products, into our services. And so we need a story to tell them from the very beginning. We generally call that marketing and advertising and PR and promotion. But some of that also, right, comes through word of mouth, referrals from friends, family, strangers on the internet. Same thing works in reverse. On the tail end of a service, after using a product, customers are forming some sense of terminal satisfaction. They're forming memories, which are really just stories that we tell ourselves over and over again. Sometimes, if we're lucky enough, those memories come out of our brains and we tell them to other people, whether it be in the form of a guest satisfaction survey, whether it be in the form of a review or rating on social media, conversation with our friends and family. And ultimately, across all of these stories, wherever and whenever they're told, in our minds or outside, we want to make sure that the guest is the hero of the story. Sometimes we can be the hero too, or the sidekick, but we should never become the villains. Easy enough. Now, in order to pull this off, we need concerted systems. We need orchestrated systems. I'm not here to talk today about the importance of quality management other than to acknowledge the fact that when we don't take personal responsibility in delivering excellence, when we don't seize these opportunities rather than problems, we have the opposite, an instance where things escalate in the wrong direction, where people are telling stories, but they're not the good kinds, where we get more thumbs down than thumbs up. The secret, again, not rocket science. They're those points that I brought up already today. Here's the thing about quality. It's always an elephant in every room. Good quality, and especially not so great quality. But if you'll pardon an expression, if we wanted to eat this elephant, how would we go about doing it? We're going to take it not only one bite at a time, solving problems bit by bit, incremental changes sustained over time, but we're also going to involve our teams in doing so. In each of those examples that I shared with you, when I was taking time to attend to guests with that autograph book, when I delivered the clothing to the guest from the Ritz-Carlton, I needed my team with me to make sure that our operation still flowed in my absence. Likewise, if any of them ever needed to deliver a wow experience or take care of an opportunity as it arose, we would need to work together to do that. When Walt Disney was trying to figure out the situation with the trash cans, when Mr. Marriott goes and inspects his hotels, it's not a solo mission, maybe largely through their eyes, but they bring everybody into the fold, make them involved in the planning of the work that affects them, give them a seat at the table, a say in the game, and a sense of personal responsibility in delivering excellence. Here's one more example from the Ritz-Carlton. Do any of your organizations do a SWOT analysis? Who here has participated in a SWOT analysis before? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. See about half of the room. It's pretty common practice. Typically, these SWOT analysis, right, will happen oftentimes in a boardroom or with a particular strategy team or in a particular department. And oftentimes, the results are analyzed, turned into action plans, and cascaded downwards, right? Well, in the Ritz-Carlton, we do the exact opposite. So rather than have everything trickle down from the start, from the top, we flip the script. Every June, July, as part of the annual strategic planning process, every hotel participates in a SWOT analysis. Every division within a hotel, rooms, food and beverage, engineering, human resources, marketing, sales, participate in the SWOT analysis. Essentially what happens is during your daily lineups, the beginning of every shift, so 3 shifts a day, for a week, we talk about, in my department, what are the strengths? 1 week, 3 shifts a day, talking about our strengths. The next week, what are our weaknesses? 3 lineups, 3 shifts a day, 7 days, talk about your weaknesses. Opportunities, strengths. You spend a month, each department in every one of those 150 hotels, 45,000 employees altogether, essentially produce this grassroots SWOT analysis. That then gets laddered up to the hotel, to the region, and then to the corporate office. It's an opportunity not only for each person in the organization to take personal responsibility into delivering excellence, but it also creates this amazing opportunity where members of the corporate team in the boardroom in Bethesda, Maryland, can hear from every corner of the world where we're operating to understand what's going on and what do we see for the future. What do we need to plan for to ensure the success of everybody? That SWOT that then gets turned into action plans that are returned back to hotels, but the genesis of this feedback loop begins at the front line. I showed you one Mr. Marriott earlier. This was the OG Mr. Marriott, J. Willard Marriott, the principal founder of the company. And he had a saying that's still well used within the organization. In fact, some might even describe it as the unofficial motto of Marriott. I think it summarizes quite well the imperative that we have as customer experience leaders. First things first, we need to take care of our people. In doing that, we can inspire that sense of personal responsibility in delivering excellence, that pride. Our people will take care of our guests. Then it's just math. To a certain extent, the guests come back. There he is. That's the Mr. Marriott that I personally worked with. And that's President Eisenhower, a friend of the family. There's another story that's told within the organization that I want to share with you as I wrap up our session right now. You see, back when Bill Marriott Jr. was a younger man, a teenager at the time, he was in the middle of service in World War II. He had a period of furlough while he was in the Navy. He was able to return around Christmas time to the family farm where, as it would happen, President or General at the time, Eisenhower, was visiting to celebrate the holidays. And amidst a snowy day, the family is kind of talking about what they want to do. And young Bill says, oh, well, maybe we could go outside. Maybe we could stay in by the fire. What do you think, General? And Dwight D. Eisenhower, future President of the United States, turns to young, at the time, Bill Marriott and says, well, I don't know, Bill, what do you want to do? That simple question stuck with him for the rest of his life. Here, a seasoned commander of arguably one of the largest warfighting powers in the history of the world, future President of the United States, turned to practically a kid and asked for his advice. The same question that Bill Marriott goes on and asks often of every one of his team members across every part of the organization, that instills that personal responsibility in delivering excellence. And he asked me many times over the years. And hopefully, it's a question that you too can take with your teams now that I've shared this story with you. Ask as often as you can, what do you think? How can we make our experience not only good, but great? How can we take things that we see as problems and turn them into opportunities to improve our efficiency, to improve our effectiveness, to improve our safety, our cleanliness, our satisfaction? How can we make this a place where we have fun working and where we feel that sense of pride, that personal responsibility in delivering excellence? At the end of the day, that's the magic. It's not like I've got pixie dust in my pocket. It's not like Tinkerbell or Jiminy Cricket fly around me at all hours of the day, helping cast members at the Disney parks deliver on these experiences. It's not like Ritz-Carlton, ladies and gentlemen, have magic wands that they wave to enact the wow moments that they're renowned for. It all boils down to leaders asking for input and encouraging a personal responsibility in delivering excellence and setting an example for it along the way. So hopefully in this course, I have been able to share with you, through my stories, through our shared experiences, what each of those looks like, to set an example, to be a role model, but ultimately to inspire some personal responsibility in delivering excellence. And I wish you and your teams the very best as you continue to do so in uplifting customer centricity, not just in your companies, but everywhere around the world, including, hopefully soon, Antarctica. Thank you very much.